All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're doing a bit of a perspective shift. We're moving away from being just passive AI users and stepping into the role of analytical thinkers, people who actually understand the mechanics happening behind the screen. Because, let's be honest, it is incredibly easy to be mesmerized by a chat interface that talks back to you in these perfectly structured, articulate paragraphs. But to really master these tools, we need what's called critical AI literacy. We have to decode the myths we've been told and seriously dissect the metaphors we use every single day. So let's figure out how this whole thing really works.
We've got a lot of fascinating ground to cover today. First, the metaphor trap. Then, parrots versus world models. After that, the reality of hallucinations. And finally, strategic roles and system 2. Basically, we're moving from the abstract illusions of language straight into the practical, everyday realities of using AI at work. Let's jump in.
Section 1. The metaphor trap. Let's explore how the metaphors we use act as invisible infrastructures of understanding.
Okay, notice the gradient we're looking at here. Think about the difference between a really safe, mundane metaphor, like calling AI a calculator for words, and an anxiety-inducing one, like calling it a sorcerer or an overlord. A calculator doesn't want to take your job, right? It just computes. It has zero agency. But think about the workplace implications of shifting toward those anxiety metaphors. When we casually say an AI thinks, or learns, or understands, we're sliding down that gradient. And how we label the system completely determines how we interact with it. If you genuinely view it as an overlord, well, you fear it and avoid using it. If it's a sorcerer, you might just trust it implicitly, assuming it has some sort of magical, infinite knowledge. But if you view it as a calculator, you use it strategically, and you always verify its math.
So why do we fall for that sorcerer's illusion in the first place? Well, it boils down to something called the Eliza Effect. This is our deeply ingrained, almost unavoidable human tendency to attribute human-like meaning and intent to computer-generated text. Because the AI sounds perfectly fluent, our brains are basically tricked. We automatically assume there has to be a conscious mind behind the words. We are so deeply hardwired for social connection that when the text on a screen sounds like a person, we just treat it like a person. But is there actually a mind in there?
That brings us to Section 2, Parrots versus World Models. Now that we know our brains are easily tricked by fluency, let's drop the metaphors and look under the hood.
We're tackling the biggest debate in AI literacy today. Does the machine actually understand, or is it just repeating patterns? On one hand, we have the stochastic parrot theory. This argues that AI is basically just stitching together linguistic forms it saw in its massive training data. It's just predicting the next word without any actual real-world comprehension. Form entirely without meaning. But contrast that with the totally mind-bending reality of experiments like Othello-GPT. In this case, researchers trained a model solely on text transcripts of Othello games. Just text, E4 to D5, that kind of thing. It never actually saw a game board. Yet researchers discovered the AI spontaneously built a functional internal 3D map of the board to accurately predict the next move. Critics of the parrot theory point to this and go, wait a minute, maybe through massive scale, the AI is actually building a functional understanding of the rules of our world, simply by analyzing text. So, are we dealing with a parrot or an emerging world model? It's wild to think about.
Section 3, the reality of hallucinations. Because whether it's a very clever parrot or it possesses an internal world model, we really need to understand what happens when the system gets things wrong.
If you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer, let it be this exact aha moment. AI lying is not a glitch. It is actually a core architectural feature. Large language models are specifically optimized for plausibility over factual truth. Mechanically, they're engineered to predict the next most likely token, just a piece of a word, based on patterns. They are designed from the ground up to generate what looks right and sounds natural to a human ear. They are totally optimized for fluency. What they do not do is cross-check a secondary database for absolute facts before they speak. They just calculate the most probable, plausible-sounding sequence of words. And when you realize that, you realize exactly why they can so confidently lie right to your face.
To really truly grasp why plausibility constantly overrides truth in these models, we have to look at a foundational concept called the symbol grounding problem. I know, it sounds super academic, but it's literally the master key to understanding AI behavior.
Let's use a concrete example. Think about a coconut. Your human sensory reality is rich, right? It's highly dimensional. You know the rough, fibrous texture of a coconut in your hands. You know how heavy it is, you know that hollow sound it makes when you tap it, and exactly what the water inside tastes like. The word, the symbol coconut, is firmly grounded in your physical, real-world experience. Now, shift gears to the AI's mathematical reality. An AI only knows a coconut as a mathematical vector. It is literally just a string of numbers floating in high-dimensional space, placed near other strings of numbers associated with words like tropical or husk. The system doesn't know what a fruit actually is. And because the AI isn't grounded in the physical world, it can confidently describe the taste, the smell, and the texture of a totally fictional fruit that doesn't even exist. The math still aligns perfectly, even when the reality absolutely doesn't.
Section 4. Strategic Roles and System 2. So, ask yourself directly, if your AI doesn't genuinely know what a coconut actually is, if it's just a vector machine optimized for plausibility, how on earth should you be using it at work?
We are right in the middle of a massive technological transition. For the past couple of years, we've been dealing primarily with System 1 AI. Just like human System 1 thinking, it is fast, instinctive, and completely reflexive. You prompt it, and boom, it blurts out the first highly probable answer. But we are now entering the era of System 2 AI. These are the emerging reasoning models. They are specifically designed to be slow and deliberate. Instead of just predicting the next word instinctively, they search through what's called a tree of thoughts. They test out multiple paths, they literally check their own work, and they evaluate different logical steps before finally handing you an answer. This is a real game changer for how we deploy these tools professionally.
Because of this shift, if you want to add real value to your team, you've got to abandon that limiting eager intern metaphor. An intern just fetches information. Instead, you need to step into these new strategic roles. First, try treating the AI as a coworker. This means genuine collaboration, alternating who actually takes the lead on drafting and revising. Second, start using AI as a teacher or a coach. Remember, it operates on math, not emotion, which means it has infinite patience. Use that. Have it critique your most complex work. Ask it, hey, what are the absolute weakest points in my argument here? Or what logical leaps am I making? It can spot your strategic blind spots instantly, and it gives you high-level feedback without any of the weird interpersonal friction you might get from a human colleague.
As we wrap up today, if there is one ultimate takeaway for your knowledge base, seriously, write this on a sticky note and put it right on your monitor. It is this: fluency is not the same as comprehension. Just because the output reads beautifully and sounds incredibly authoritative does absolutely not mean the system comprehends the facts of our physical reality. Keeping this in mind is absolutely crucial. It ensures we maintain the oversight necessary for reliable, ethical work. Remember, you are the one grounded in reality. The AI is just grounded in math.
So, I'll leave you with this provocative thought to ponder the next time you sit down at your keyboard. Look at that blinking cursor in the prompt box and ask yourself honestly, are you treating the system on the other side of the screen as some magical mind that knows everything? Or are you treating it as probabilistic automation, an incredibly powerful, highly advanced calculator for words that absolutely requires your human grounding to be truly useful? The answer to that question might just define your success in this new era. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep thinking critically.